Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel and happy Makeup and Movie Monday. Yay! I hope you're doing very well. So today it's Monday and of course that means I'm going to be doing my kind of take on another genre, and if you can't tell by the title, I'm going to be talking about gangster movies or the gangster genre in itself. And this is one of my favourite kind of genres of all time because I've grown up watching a lot of movies, I've grown up watching a lot of violent movies, and kind of a lot of the films that I'm going to be talking about are obviously within that genre, and I just thought, you know what, it's an important genre to talk about because everyone loves a bit of violence every so often, if you want to put it that way, when it comes to movies. But yeah, if you're new to my channel, hello. And yeah, every Monday I like to kind of put on a full face of makeup, talk about movies. I used to talk about a specific film, but now I'm just talking about genres for the moment until I run out of genres to talk about, and then we'll kind of go back into the movies aspect. And yeah, everything I'm going to be wearing I will put in the description. Yeah, if you ever kind of want to know what I'm using. But yeah, let's just get on with the video because we're going to be here for 500 years if I just keep on if I keep on talking. So yes, we're going to talk about gangsters. So, you know, the whole kind of gangster thing started out with, you know, people like Al Capone and stuff like that, and then when they kind of introduced it into the movies, it was really kind of a lot of things that were set in, like, you know, the 20s and like the 40s, like the kind of depression era and stuff like that. And a lot of the movies that obviously tend to watch around the whole gangster era tends to be, you know, around the 50s and kind of a bit earlier than that. The kind of movie that I want to start off talking about is like my favourite kind of gangster movies, and it's the Godfather trilogy, of course. So if you haven't heard of the movies or if you haven't seen them, please see them because they are cinematic masterpieces, if I don't say so myself. I first discovered The Godfather when I think I must have been in my maybe when I was about 15, 16. That tends to happen a lot with these type of movies. I'm watching them way younger than I should be, but you know, no harm in it. Yeah, so I did watch the first one because obviously it's watching the first one and then the second one and then the third one is normally the way that you should watch movies. But yeah, the first one is you know, one of my favourite movies of all time. If you haven't seen my top 10 favourite movies of all time, I will yeah, I really recommend that you watch it if you want to know what my favourite movies are, because it's quite difficult to make a list sometimes. I mean, I have my solid top 5 and then my kind of last 5 towards the 10 is always very hit and miss, but I felt like the 10 that I made was very right, basically. And Godfather's always been number 4 in my list, so I know that's very specific but I'm a very specific person when it comes to these lists. But yeah, number 4. And in case you kind of don't know what they're about, it's about the Corleone family, who essentially, you know, there's different like houses, you know, like how you have Game of Thrones where the different houses, these are like the different families that run the kind of, you know, underground gangster aspect, where they're, you know, on the outside they look like they're very charitable people, very kind people, but then when you look further down they're all about guns and crime and murder and stuff like that. So they're not as nice as you kind of think. And yeah, the whole kind of trilogy is about the kind of the change in the family, because with the first one you do have I mean, this should be a video just about the Godfather. I mean, I could talk about the Godfather for 500 years, but essentially, yeah, the whole 3 movies are just about the family, the family themselves, and just the kind of evolution that they go through. And the first one for me, I know a lot of people love the second one more because obviously Al Pacino is a bit like, he's like the main character in it, and he is like the main character in kind of the first one, but he's kind of overshadowed a little bit in my opinion. But I feel like when it comes to number 1, you get to meet all your characters, you have a lot more interesting characters, especially when it comes to the actual family itself. But then when you kind of get to number 2, that movie is like, over 2.5 hours. It's over, I mean, it's probably over 3 hours. I remember I think there's a DVD version that I have, and it's on 2 discs. What movies need to be on 2 discs? I mean, a lot of movies these days obviously are either 3 hours or this many hours, but obviously when it comes to that type of movie, you would never feel that it needs to be over 3 hours. But I feel like with part 2, it works really well to kind of be part of that long. Like, it needs to be that long because there's just so much to talk about. And then when you come to the third one, I mean, back in the day, I absolutely hated it because I watched it and I'm like, what is this movie? It's pretty bad. And then recently they came out with a kind of, it's not a remaster, but it's like a kind of edit, even though I feel like it's pretty much the same movie, which is it's called Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, even though not really much of a difference, to be honest. Some of it I feel was changed and okay, and it kind of redeems itself a little bit, but I still don't think it's that great. But yeah, if you haven't checked out the newer version of number 3, maybe do check it out because it maybe flows a little bit better than the original version. But yeah, I might have to do like a Makeup Movie Monday just on The Godfather itself, because it's over 3 movies, but it kind of paved the way for a lot of gangster films, because obviously before then I think you really didn't have as many like as we do now. So of course the whole gangster genre is very kind of, there's lots of different ways to kind of think about like what gangster kind of movies are. And then when you look at the kind of movies that are affiliated, obviously you have Goodfellas, which is probably the number one that a lot of people go to, because I remember when I was a kid and I watched it, I was like, this is like 100 times more violent than The Godfather. Because when you think of Goodfellas, it's honestly just like murder, and like just fucking crazy. It's an insane movie, and it's been a while since I've watched it, and I don't know why, because I think it's a fucking great movie. I think it's on like Netflix, so if you haven't seen it, I just absolutely recommend it. And of course it's got Robert De Niro, so a lot of the movies that I'll be talking about will just have the same actors in there because that's their genre essentially. Because you have, again, Robert De Niro, he was in Godfather number 2, and then you have Al Pacino, who's in all 3 of them, and you know, they appear in quite a few movies together, and they also appear in a lot of movies that they're kind of stereotypically known for, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess when it comes to them two, they're just so good at doing what they do that it just kind of works really well in their favour for being I can't even talk, sorry, for being those type of characters. And I feel like when it comes to, you know, Goodfellas, you also have the movie like Casino, and you also have pretty much anything that Martin Scorsese has made, because he is the king of gangster movies. And I remember a lot of his movies when I was growing up. But obviously, of course, he did The Irishman recently, which was, I thought it was great. I mean, I need to watch it again. It's very it's a bit slow in some places. I mean, of course, like I mentioned, he is like the king of gangster movies, because you have Casino, you have Goodfellas, and you have like Gangs of New York and stuff like that. So a lot of his movies are stereotypically known to be gangster movies, and I mean, that's just his thing. Of course, he's done a lot of other movies. I know he did like Shutter Island, which is not really a gangster movie. It's like a psychological kind of thriller, I guess. But it's always good for like a director kind of to spur in and out. But obviously when you're a director like him, everything is known to just be about gangster movies. So I felt like him deterring away it's alright, but you know, it's not the same as watching Goodfellas and watching Casino, even though those movies are just amazing. And then you have The Departed as well. He did do The Departed. I'm just trying to remember because my brain can be very fickle sometimes. But yeah, that does kind of count as a gangster movie as well, even though it's kind of set in a more normal era, like a normal era, like today's era, as opposed to it being more like the 70s or, you know, the 60s and stuff like that. And then when you kind of look at other type of gangster movies, you have The Untouchables, which I think is one of the greatest. I say this a lot, don't I? I kind of feel like it's one of the greatest movies of all time. And honestly, I don't always say that lightly. I do kind of, I say it a lot, but I wouldn't just say it to anything. Like, honestly, when I was really young and I did watch Untouchables, I was just like, this is amazing. And it's got Robert De Niro in it as well. So it's not like he did steer away from some of these movies, because he definitely is in a lot of movies in that genre, even though they're not directed by Martin Scorsese. But I felt like with something like The Untouchables, it is obviously based on a true story, and you do have De Niro playing as Al Capone, which I think is freaking amazing. So I'm just going to get my mirror a bit closer so I can actually see what I'm doing. But yeah, the movie itself is just amazing, and the soundtrack, oh my god, that soundtrack is fucking good. It's been a while since I have seen it as well, but for me, the scene that always sticks out is when they're in, I think they're at the train station or somewhere, and when the buggy falls down that staircase. That is one of the most memorable scenes I can remember when I was a child watching that movie, because I'm just like, oh my god, because I think it must have been in either all the trailers, or it must have been in like some kind of promotional, or just for some reason it was a scene that stuck out to me the most. And it just is an insane movie, because you have Sean Connery in it, and then you have, of course, Kevin Costner, and just like an amazing cast in itself. And I believe it is directed by David De Palma. Sometimes my brain just kind of floats away with me, but I'm pretty sure it is a De Palma movie. But yeah, that is, of course, what you would essentially call a gangster movie as well, because like I said, Al Capone was like one of the main people to kind of start this whole gangster thing. And yeah, like I said, a lot of these movies are just very influential, and of course it's been influenced for a lot of TV shows. For example, The Sopranos is the number one program that I would think of, because of course it's just very similar to something like The Godfather. So it has elements of like it's just all about family, it's all about kind of honor, and it's all about kind of staying loyal to your friends who are your family at the same time as well. Because when you think of a lot of these kind of movies, the people that, you know, they rely on, they depend on, are, you know, the family. And especially with a show like The Sopranos, that is extremely iconic, even though it's been over for maybe 10 years now. That's probably insane to think about. It's definitely a show that has been stapled within that whole genre, and I think they're making a film about like the kind of young years of Tony, which is really interesting to see, even though it has been a long time since that show finished. And of course James Gandolfini has passed away, but I know it's his son that's going to be playing his character, which is actually pretty good. So I'm intrigued to see like when that comes out. And I don't know if, like, recently I've been rewatching Sons of Anarchy, and I don't know if a lot of people would kind of call that gangster, but it's still within the same realm of kind of that type of family and war and crime and just murder, which is, you know, a lot of what you see in these type of shows, and obviously films as well. And a kind of another type of film that I kind of forgot to mention before was when I was looking at a list as what kind of cast as gangster, they mentioned like Reservoir Dogs, which, you know, again is in my top 10 movies of all time. I'm pretty sure it's number, wait, 1, 2, I think it's like number 5 or number 6. I'm pretty sure it's number 5. So yeah, that is obviously part of one of my favourite films as well. I don't know if I would essentially cast it as a gangster movie. I know it's obviously, I mean, it's a movie with just men in it, and of course only men are gangsters, but it's just weird idea, sorry, if that is classed as a gangster movie. And of course, when I was looking as well, it did say Pulp Fiction, which I agree with, but again, I'm not 100% sure if I would call Pulp Fiction a gangster movie. It's very lots of elements of gang type things, and just another amazing movie. And of course, Tarantino is very influenced by a lot of old Western movies, which again are the type of gangster movies that you would kind of think of. Of course, he's very influenced by like old Japanese movies, which do have a lot of gangster elements in there as well. Sorry if my sound is coming back and forth, but my camera is not the best because I'm using my phone. But yeah, when it comes to these type of movies, I just, you know, there's a lot of violence and murder in the normal world, and sometimes when you want to escape with the movies, you don't want to see that. But for me, I mean, there's always a difference knowing that sometimes it's not real. I know in a lot of countries there's obviously a lot of war, there's a lot of murder, and there's lots of gangsters who watch these movies and I'll be like, you know, I can live this lifestyle, I can be like this, and I can be rich and famous and just make a lot of money, when obviously the realization is how many lives are lost and the different type of people who die, and movies are not real, even though a lot of movies are influenced by these kind of gangsters. But I just I just enjoy these movies a lot. I mean, again, I'm trying not to be contradicting or anything, but obviously when you're watching a show with so much violence, you do kind of wonder, is it really worth making these movies when these people are just insane? But you know, movies are an escapism regardless of the genre, regardless of what you're watching. I'm just gonna put my lips on because I don't want there to just be dead air. So I'll be right back. Okay, so yeah, this is my finished look. Let me know what you think. Let me know like what your favorite kind of gangster movie is. It's really difficult to kind of sometimes know what falls into the category, but I mean, if there's a gang, if there's violence, if there's murder, most of the time it's a gangster movie. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Again, if you want to know what I have used today, I will leave it in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I film and upload every time I get a chance to. Don't forget to follow me on my social media because I'm always on there. And yeah, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're healthy, happy and safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.